Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers are setting up one of the most anticipated finals matchups in NBA history for the true basketball fans out there. Two small market teams going at it. Two very young teams led by two of the youngest superstars in the league. We have Tyrese Haliburton, the point guard of the Indiana Pacers. We have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP of the regular season and the point guard of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game 1 tips off on Thursday night. And on this episode of the Flame Entertainment and Sports, we will be previewing this very exciting matchup between these two up-and-coming teams that are ready to show the world that they are the top of the basketball world. All right, guys, so to start off this NBA Finals preview episode, we're going to be talking about some key matchups in this upcoming series between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. As I mentioned in the intro, the Pacers are led on the court by their superstar point guard Tyrese Haliburton, while the Oklahoma City Thunder are led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Both of these teams are led by two of the top coaches in the league. We have Rick Carlisle, the veteran, the NBA champion with the Dallas Mavericks, coaching the Indiana Pacers. And then we have Mark Daigneault, a fifth-year head coach with the Thunder, who's just done an absolutely marvelous job. And short 5 years in the NBA, he's already making his first finals appearance, and he has a chance to be an NBA champion head coach just 5 years in, which is just absolutely remarkable and unheard of. But to start off first with Indiana, talk about Tyrese Haliburton. So Haliburton, he's had an amazing playoff run. He's had an amazing season, of course, in general. But to me, what separates the great players from the good players is how they perform in the postseason. And ultimately, Haliburton has done an incredible job of leading the charge on the court for the Indiana Pacers. With that said, the guys around him have also done an incredible job of getting the Pacers to reach this pivotal point of competing for their first championship in franchise history. Haliburton's sidekick, just like Rick Carlisle, is a champion himself in 2019 with the Toronto Raptors, Pascal Siakam. And I mean, how good was Pascal Siakam in the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks? I would argue that Pascal Siakam was ultimately the X factor in deciding whether or not the Pacers were going to beat the Knicks. I mean, he had a completely incredible conference finals. He had 2 or 3 games there where he just took over from start to finish. And to go back to Haliburton, by Siakam taking charge and leading the way, it very much let Haliburton get into a flow of his own, take some pressure off of his shoulders, and just allow Haliburton to be himself rather than trying to do too much. And I feel that's something, especially if you want to talk about the conference finals and what happened to the Knicks, I feel, this is an episode for another day, but to cover it quickly, I feel like the New York Knicks, they're going to have to look in the mirror. They've had 2 great years in a row, but ultimately, they haven't been able to find that second guy next to Jalen Brunson. Yes, they have plenty of talent. Karl-Anthony Towns, he did an incredible job offensively. Mikal Bridges had his moments. OG Anunoby had his moments. Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson grabbed a lot of rebounds. But ultimately, I think what Indiana's done here by acquiring Pascal Siakam to put alongside Tyrese Haliburton is something that should be at the top of the agenda in terms of what the New York Knicks should do this offseason to improve their chances of advancing further in next year's playoffs. So yeah, Siakam, I think, has been a tremendous help to Haliburton. His versatility is unbelievable. He's an elite offensive player. He's able to shoot the 3. But what I love and what impressed me the most of Siakam's game, yes, he's a power forward. He's around 6'9", I want to say. Something that really stands out about him, you could put 7-footers on him, and he's not afraid to back them down and get some buckets in the post, draw some fouls in the post. He did it against Karl-Anthony Towns, who's about, 7'1" or 7'2". Siakam, what he may lack in height, he makes up for in strength and determination. Some other guys I want to highlight here for Indiana who had great starts to the series, who have had great playoff runs in general, but I feel will have to step up are Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith. So Nembhard and Nesmith, they've had a great playoff run, but ultimately I feel towards the end of the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks, I feel like Nembhard and Nesmith, they kind of dropped off. Ultimately Indiana, of course, was able to prevail, but I feel that in order for Indiana to have a realistic opportunity or chance at capturing this title and defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder, I feel like Nembhard and Nesmith, they can't have these lapses that they had towards the end of the series against New York. I know Nesmith, he did get hurt. He twisted his ankle in one of the games, so credit for him to keep going and striving out there. So perhaps the ankle injury was bothering him. You think of what he was able to do in the beginning of the series, in that game one epic comeback by the Indiana Pacers. Nesmith had 8 threes. I believe he had 6 threes in the fourth quarter. They're going to need more performances like that from Aaron Nesmith in order to compete against the best defense in the league, in the Oklahoma City Thunder. As for Andrew Nembhard, he's had a terrific playoff run as well. But ultimately, I feel like his play dropped off too much towards the end of the conference finals in order for me to be fully confident in this Indiana Pacers team. Some other guys who have made pivotal plays and contributed in key moments throughout this run, well, I think will have to be on top of their game as well. More of a role player type of aspect. I feel like TJ McConnell, in the moments where he's been able to play, he's done a terrific job as always. I've always loved TJ from his early days in Philly, and now with the Indiana Pacers, he's just one of those guys. He's going to give it his all. He's a very high IQ player. He's a great veteran leader to have, and I wouldn't be shocked if Rick Carlisle goes to TJ McConnell more than people expect in this upcoming finals matchup. He's just one of those guys that's basically like a coach on the court. I think McConnell is going to play a pivotal role in this series, and he's going to have to be a huge X factor if Indiana expects to win this series. Another guy I want to mention here is Obi Toppin. I feel like he's been the underrated X factor throughout this whole Pacer playoff run that they've done this postseason. He had many pivotal key moments against the New York Knicks, which of course is a team that drafted him and then traded him to Indiana. He made some big time rebounds whenever it may be. And then that goes, talking about all these role players, goes back to Rick Carlisle, one of the top coaches in the league. Like I said, he's already a champion. He beat the Miami Heat in 2011 with the Dallas Mavericks. And I absolutely love what he's done this postseason, especially in that Knicks series where he used basically the whole team. If something's not working, he's not going to be hard-headed and keep going at it. He's going to try new things, and I feel that's something that many coaches need to get back into. And that's something that Mark Daigneault, I feel, for a young coach, he's shown. Of course, in this Western Conference Finals series against the Timberwolves, he didn't play as many guys as Carlisle played against the Knicks, but I feel like the Thunder as well, they're going to have to use their bench. But yeah, I just wanted to cover Indiana really quickly. Now to move over to the Thunder. So, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP of the regular season, and he's arguably been the MVP of the postseason. He's an incredible leader at 26 years old. He shows so much posure, so much leadership, and yeah, just how calm he is speaks volumes to me. To see a young player like that with so much pressure on his shoulders, being calm, leading the way. You see him trying to help the guys when they make a mistake during a timeout. And yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, of course, we could all talk about his amazing ability to shoot the mid-range, to draw fouls, to make free throws, to set up his teammates, whatever it may be. But ultimately, the type of leader that SGA is hard to find. And I think that's one of the pivotal reasons why the Thunder have reached this point, and why SGA has reached this point in his career at just 26 years old. He gives me a lot of vibes of a young D Wade, actually, like a young Dwayne Wade. So I'm really loving what I'm seeing from SGA. Then you think of the other guys playing alongside him and this young Thunder team, just unbelievable what they've done. Jalen Williams, what a great young player he is. He's showing little by little why the Thunder are so great and why it's so essential to have a great second guy next to your main anchor. Just like I said with Indiana, how they're able to acquire Siakam and put him next to Haliburton. The Thunder have also done a marvelous job. Of course, they traded for SGA a couple years ago from the Clippers. They drafted Jalen Williams a couple years ago. And ultimately, the fit has been terrific. They fit greatly next to each other. And I feel like their games balance off of each other perfectly. Of course, SGA is the main anchor. But at the end of the day, if SGA is being covered tightly, he's not on top of his game. Jalen Williams has proven that he could be that great sidekick next to that number one option in SGA. Jaylin, his defense is just absolutely elite. I love how he gets in your face. He's not afraid of committing a foul, but he's also a very smart player, in that aspect. He's not going to just go in your face and do some dirty foul or some stupid foul. He's a very smart player, and that speaks volumes and is huge at such a young age as well. And then little by little, his offensive game continues to develop. He's great at drawing fouls. He knows how to drive in and draw fouls. And then we've seen his shooting just absolutely continue to climb up and up in a positive direction over the years. Then Chet Holmgren, another young guy the Thunder drafted just a couple years into his career. He started off his career with an injury. He's had multiple injuries, but what this guy has shown in this playoff has absolutely blown away at least my expectations, and I'm sure many of you out there as well have been blown away by how great Chet Holmgren has looked in the NBA playoffs at such a young age with very little experience. It's just incredible. Just like Jaylin, he has a very high IQ. He's great defensively, of course. He's so tall, but a lot of times you have these tall guys that can block and people go crazy, but something that sets Chet Holmgren apart from the typical big man who could block, in my opinion, is that he knows how to use his body. He knows not to foul people with his body. He knows how to time perfectly when to go for a block. And then offensively, he's just been a terror because he's such a mismatch nightmare down low. And I feel like someone I didn't cover on Indiana, well, I'm going to transition to Miles Turner. He's also had a terrific playoff run. I didn't mention him initially, but he's someone that we're going to have to watch, and he's going to have a big task of guarding Chet Holmgren and making sure that not only Holmgren stays off the offensive glass, but also Isaiah Hartenstein, who the Thunder signed this past offseason from the New York Knicks. So Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, 2 7-footers there, who have been dominating the offensive glass, created a lot of second chance opportunities for the Thunder, and therefore Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, who I mentioned off the bench for Indiana, they're going to have to do a terrific job and play the best they've played all season, because ultimately it's going to be tough to match up with these 2 7-foot giants that the Thunder have down low. And then another guy I want to talk about with OKC, one of my favorite players in the league for a while now. He gives me some TJ McConnell vibes, who I mentioned from Indiana. That's Alex Caruso, who the Thunder acquired in the offseason from the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Josh Giddey. Alex Caruso has been one of my favorite players ever since he entered the league with the Lakers. He was a crucial part of their 2020 bubble championship team when they defeated my Miami Heat. He's an elite defender. He's one of the smartest players in the league. Just like McConnell, he's basically a coach out there. He does all the little things that are essential in deciding whether or not a team makes it or ultimately wins it in the NBA Finals. And yeah, Caruso is going to get a lot of minutes. I think he's going to get the most minutes he's got in this whole playoff run will be in this final series against Indiana. I think he's going to be guarding Tyrese Haliburton for most of this series, because ultimately this is now do or die. This is the opportunity you have now to be the champion. And ultimately, I think Caruso is going to get a lot of minutes, and he has a lot of trust from the coaching staff of Mark Dagnall and the rest of the assistants there in OKC. So yeah, guys, those are a couple key elements or key matchups I wanted to talk about within this upcoming NBA Finals series between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, guys, so for this next segment in this NBA Finals preview, it's going to be short and sweet. I'm going to talk about one guy from each team who I think is going to have a big role, or a bigger role than expected, in this upcoming Finals matchup. For the Indiana Pacers, Bennedict Mathurin, the recent first-round pick, he's had his moments little by little here in the playoffs. When he's gotten the opportunity, he's come through, whether it be on the offensive side of the ball. He had a 20-point game in this past series against the Knicks. He could also provide a lot of help on the defensive end. I think Mathurin could be a X factor if the Pacers ultimately pull this out. As for the Thunder, I have Jalen Williams, the other one, the one from the bench, the big man. He's one of my favorite role players in all of basketball, the young big man there for the Thunder. He's an absolute beast getting rebounds. He's great. You know, something in his game I think that's underrated. I think he's one of the best guys at setting screens in the whole NBA. He could provide some offensive scoring down low as well. So yeah, just wanted to shout out Bennedict Mathurin and Jalen Williams. As I said, if the Pacers win, I think one of the reasons could be Mathurin had his best series of the playoffs. And if the Thunder win, I think Jalen Williams is going to be a huge part in that result. All right, guys. So before I get into my predictions here on this final segment of our 2025 NBA Finals preview, I want to state a little fact that's pretty cool. So the Oklahoma City Thunder have not won an NBA championship. Yes, I know prior to them being in Oklahoma, they were in Seattle as the Seattle Supersonics, and the Supersonics did win the NBA championship in 1979. So technically, yes, they have a championship, but as the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have not won. This will be their second appearance in the finals. The first one was in 2012 when they lost to my Miami Heat. I was actually in attendance for that final game here in Miami what a blessing. And as for the Indiana Pacers, this will be the second time they've ever appeared in the finals, and they have yet to win a championship. So I find it so amazing that both of these teams have the opportunity to capture their first ever NBA title. And with that said, before I officially give my predictions, I'm going to give some final takeaways or final things that I feel each team must focus on in order to ultimately win the NBA Finals. For Indiana, I feel like they're going to really have to rely, or they're going to have to focus heavily on playing the best defense that they've played all season long. Do they have a good defense? Yes. Do they have a great defense? No. Defense will always come first to me. Ultimately, you look at Oklahoma City's offense, of course, SGA is the anchor that leads the way. He's incredible at driving in and drawing fouls, but his bread and butter, he knows how to get to his spot, and that spot where he likes to shoot from is right next to the free throw line. What separates his game from other people and why teams are so unable to challenge him this season is that SGA goes at his own pace. He's able to kind of fool the defense into thinking he's going to drive in. Then he creates that little separation, and ultimately he gets so many open looks from around the free throw line. And I feel like Indiana is going to have to heavily focus on stopping SGA, on messing up his timing, not letting him get comfortable into his position, and letting him, fire off some shots from his preferred spot near the free throw line. As for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I feel like they're going to have to slow down the game. Yes, both of these teams, I did find out, are the two teams that play with the most pace in the league. The Pacers are number 1, Thunder number 2. But ultimately, I feel like the Thunder may need to change their ways a little bit. They may have to adjust. What I mean adjust is they're going to have to slow the game down in terms of their defense has to slow down the Pacers. You cannot let the Pacers go fast and get a bunch of fast break points, because ultimately that's the bread and butter of what Indiana does. So yeah, I feel like I highlighted 2 great points there on how each team could stop the bread and butter of their opposing offenses. With all that said, now to get into my predictions. So when I predict stuff, I don't do it all the time because I have to feel it within my gut. With that said, I do have a gut feeling for this finals. Yesterday I had one feeling. Right now I have a different one as we record. As of Monday, June 2nd, 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time, I have the Indiana Pacers defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder in 6 games to capture the first championship in franchise history. And I have who better but Tyrese Haliburton to be the NBA Finals MVP. And to put it out there, yesterday on Sunday, my gut was telling me OKC in 6. But ultimately, I wanted to go with my gut when I was recording. And my gut right now is saying Indy in 6. So there you have it. That's my prediction right now. I know many people have the Thunder, and I understand why. But yeah, I got to go with my gut at the end of the day. With all that said, we're going to close out this NBA Finals episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, make sure to tune in on Thursday night for Game 1 between the Pacers and the Thunder. Keep it locked in here to the Flame Entertainment and Sports on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Check us out as well on Instagram and TikTok at the Flame_ES. If you guys want to share your predictions, your thoughts, anything else like that regarding this upcoming finals matchup with me, make sure to hit us up on social media. Like I said, on Instagram and TikTok at the Flame_ES. We'd love to have we'd love to hear your opinions and your thoughts on this exciting upcoming NBA Finals matchup. And with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this NBA Finals preview. Until next time, everyone, take care.